Hey, it's Greg here with MaritimeGardening.com, and I'm doing a little experiment here in my garden. I'm going to try to do some experiments with black plastic, and I thought I'd just show you that. First, let's just have a little look around the garden. The garden is still frozen up pretty good. Any place where you see snow, there is ice underneath that. The soil is just saturated with water, which became ice over the course of the winter. We had a very unique winter this year with not a lot of snow, but a lot of rain and stuff. Despite having rain, we had double-digit below freezing temperatures. So everything is frozen. The areas of the garden where you don't see snow, it's because I sprinkled some ash around from my wood stove to melt the snow. So that's something I've done before. But anyway, what I'm doing today is a little experiment. I had one of my Q&A sessions recently on YouTube. There was some disagreement about my idea that it's really not worth your while to put some black plastic down. I've got clear plastic domes here and just mulch underneath, and people said, should you move the mulch away from the soil? Should you put black plastic down? And I said, no, just leave it, it should be fine. And a number of different people made some half-decent arguments about why black plastic is a good idea. Certainly covering the dome with black plastic I don't think is a good idea, because it's a greenhouse. I've never seen a greenhouse covered with black plastic. But the idea is that you put the black plastic on the soil, and the idea is that that absorbs some heat and that warms the soil and so forth. And I made various arguments about why you wouldn't want to do that, because the black plastic will not let the sun through to the soil. But then people would argue, yes, but the black plastic gets very hot and it warms the soil that way. And so it's maybe a 6 of one, half a dozen of the other type argument. Anyway, I'm just probing here. I'm just probing to show you. You're going to have to trust me, but these beds, I got nothing to gain from lying here. The beds are still frozen. They're still, I think later on in the video I'm going to show you there's about an inch in the very center, at the outer sides, the edges, the ground's actually quite frozen. Just about those domes have been on the garden all winter long, and the soil is still frozen. But in the very center, there's about, I would say, 2 inches of iced frost on the soil. I went out yesterday with some spinach seeds with the sole intention of actually planting some seeds and getting some spinach going down the middle of these gardens. And I couldn't believe it. We've had a bit of sun this week, but the gardens are still frozen. It's amazing. I mean, last year, 2 or 3 weeks before, I'd say 3 weeks earlier than right now, I was able to sow spinach in my garden under plastic, right in sort of dome, cold frame type stuff. Whereas this year, it's the middle of March, and I still haven't even got my soil properly thawed. I did, in one of my cold frames, I did sow some spinach 2 days ago. But these domes were thawed around this time last year. And they're not even there yet. Down the very center, there's about an inch or two of frost, and then as you go towards the perimeter of the beds, it's really frozen. I can't even get. If I take a big stick with a point on the end, big pointy stick, and something like a spear sort of thing, right, and try to jam it in, it won't break the crust. So here I am trying to lay some plastic. Now I'm going to do an experiment here. I'm going to put plastic over the mulch. The mulch on this bed I'm working on here, it's leaves, and I would say it's about 6 inches deep. Okay, so I thought I'd do the experiment where on the one I put the black over the leaves, and then the other bed, the one to the right there, behind where I am working, I expose the soil to some extent and put the plastic over exposed soil, that sort of thing. Here I am trying to. The reason I'm doing a voiceover for this video is I couldn't record video out there because it was just too windy and very annoying to try to lay something as light as plastic down. So I'm trying to find some stuff to hold it down. There's other good reason not to be recording right now is I was cussing and swearing pretty good. This just was not working. That's just the nature of being somewhere where it's just always windy. It's actually the reason the domes are so important where I am. It's so unbelievably windy where I am. You get this wind chill, and the soil just takes forever to thaw out. So the domes make this little micro. I fell down there. It's really icy. Everywhere I was walking, even though it looks like snow, that snow is basically ice. It's hard as a rock and very slippery. So it's very slippery place. Anyway, so here I am trying to use some. I can't remember how I actually figured this out. I think I ended up having to. The wind was coming from my right, which would be to the left of the screen. I think I ended up holding the dome up with my head and getting that down there. But anyway, the idea is that the color black absorbs light, absorbs heat, that sort of thing. It draws heat to itself, and so if you put that on the soil, it'll just draw in that much more heat. I'm using whole garbage. These are just garbage bags, and I'm using whole garbage bags. That way, when they're done doing their work here, I can still use them as garbage bags. Here where I live, you can use. You're supposed to use clear garbage bags for garbage, but I think every 2 weeks you can put garbage out. One of your garbage bags can be a black garbage bag for, I guess, personal items or whatever. So we have some black garbage bags. Not because we care about that. It's just we have them from before they made that law. You buy them at Costco, you get like 200 garbage bags, and then you're stuck with all these garbage bags. So anyway, I'm using them intact. As you can see, I'm getting frustrated trying to figure around with the wind and everything. And there goes the garbage bag. But and I'm trying not to fall down as well because it's so slippery, and you can see the domes moving around. Yes, I probably would have been better off. For some reason where I live, it's the wind picks, it's around 4 or 5 a.m. in the morning. There isn't a lot of wind. The wind picks up as the day goes on. As the sun comes up, the wind picks up. Generally speaking, it just activates all of that. So yeah, here's that solution for me. The wind was coming from, I guess, the direction I'm facing. So I elected to hold the dome up with my head. That's about all my head's useful for sometimes. And close it very quickly. So about not half, but close to half, almost half of this, the area under this dome, is black plastic over, I don't know, 6 inches of mulch. So we'll see. We'll check this. We'll check. What is it? I just filmed this today. It's March 17th. So in a week, we'll see where we are, and we'll compare the two ends, and hopefully it's a reasonably good experiment. Hopefully the front end isn't any more different than the back end. Yeah, there's no reason to think there'd be any difference. Anyway, so that's what we're doing now. This one here, what I elected to do was to move the mulch away from the soil. Now that means I'm piling it all up against the south side, the side closest to the viewer here on my right. Is south. So I left mulch around the edge just to provide insulation, right? I have found that these domes do a lot better if they're sitting on top of a little bed or a cushion of mulch, just like an insulation, right? Instead of being against the ground. So what I'm doing is I'm exposing an area, so this garden is 4 feet wide by 10 feet long. So I'm exposing an area about 2 feet wide. I'm leaving mulch all around the outer 1 foot. It's not exactly a foot, maybe 10 inches or whatever. 30 centimeters for those that use metric. So I'm exposing an area in the center of the bed, about 2 feet by 3 feet or 4 feet sort of thing. What would that be in metric? That would be 60 centimeters by 120 centimeters, I guess, give or take. So I'm exposing an area like that in the center, where there's still some mulch on the ground, but maybe it's at the very most, the mulch that will be remaining after I've removed all this is about an inch of mulch. That's all, at the very most, that's going to be removed. So that's the idea. So on this side, I'm removing the mulch, and I'm going to put plastic down on the soil, give or take, right? I mean, it's very difficult to get a lot of the mulch that the layer of mulch that's in contact with the soil is in the process of becoming soil anyway. So I didn't want to take it all off because it's just, you know, just good for everything, right? You don't want to completely expose your soil if you can avoid it. So I just removed like, you know, 90% of the mulch sort of thing. I left a little bit there just because there was evidence. I think I show later on. I actually found a worm. So there's actually things working on that. And all of these beds, I mean, like the amount of mulch that's in them has decreased considerably since December when I laid it all down. These beds that have the domes on them have had the domes on since December or maybe early January. I can't remember exactly. And I put a lot of mulch down, and a good amount of it has broken down and disappeared. There's a piece of frost. I was showing you that frost layer in the very center where it's, you know, it's the softest. And what I noticed in that piece of frost was I actually found there was a worm in it. There you go. See, there's actually a little red wiggler type worm in there. So, you know, those worms are right below the frost line, just waiting to work, sort of thing. So, all the more reason to get things happening in here. And yeah, I'm amazed at how much, despite it being a sort of cold, dreary winter with not a lot of sun, and you know, with these sort of domes, all these things you're doing to cheat and to accelerate the season and extend your season, all that sort of stuff, they completely depend. If they're using transparent plastic or using black plastic, they completely depend on the availability of direct sunlight, right? Sun shining down on the bed where you're trying to affect this microclimate. If it's overcast and foggy and raining and all that sort of stuff, you're not going to get any effect at all. So, you know, I would hypothesize that a minus 15 Celsius day that's really sunny is actually better than a minus 5 Celsius overcast day. I would imagine way more heat happens. So your temperature and the zones don't matter as much as the weather systems where you are. If you're in a place that just tends to stay sunny all winter long, you're in a way better position than someone who maybe it doesn't get quite as cold, but there's no sun. The sun rises, but it's overcast and the sun isn't shining on things. I mean, if you spend a lot of time outside, I will take a day minus 10 that's sunny than a day that's minus 2 and overcast any day of the week. I mean, minus 2 and overcast is miserable. Especially if it's overcast and humid outside, it is just awful. If you spend a lot of time outside like I do, I'll take that cold day, even minus 15, minus 20 if it's really sunny. It just feels different. You got that sun baking you, right? If it's foggy and it's below zero, oh man, it is bleak and not good conditions. And vegetables are no different, right? They need heat. They depend. They're not warm-blooded like you. They completely depend on the sun. Like, right, you know, if you remember the Egyptian civilization where they worship the sun. Well, plants completely worship the sun. The sun is their god, right? That, you know, without sun they can't do anything, and without heat, all of the living organisms in your little microclimate there in that little compost system you're trying to get, without the right amount of heat to get things started, nothing's going to happen in there. So we'll see how this works. I'll follow up in a week, hopefully it's Sunday right now, March 17th. I'll follow up in a week and see if we can get some sunny days this week and compare the two as the time goes on and see how much of an effect this black plastic has. Yeah, because, you know, why argue? Why debate? Why bicker? Someone, you know, let's just do the experiment and see. It makes the most sense to me. So I hope this works out. I hope you found this interesting, and if you did, please like, share, subscribe. Check the little bell thing if you want updates when I've made new videos. And until next time, get out there, get at it, have fun in your garden. Thanks for watching.